Hello and welcome back to our online sessions tutorial series. In this episode we're going to work on getting the character to be changeable by the players and then to transfer what character they've selected and bring that into the game when they start the match. So to begin with, we need to create our multiple characters. So I'm just going to create some duplicates here. I'm going to go into my third person character. This is the one that's going to be spawning in the game. I'm going to right click on this and I'm going to create a child of this, and I'm going to call this one character 1, and I'm going to duplicate that and call it character 2, and duplicate that one again for character 3. So I've got 3 characters there, and for each one, just so we can know the difference to each one, I'm just going to change their material to something different than the normal. So we go wood, that'll do there. This one will make stone. And we'll just do like a cut stone type thing. So it looks like this. And finally character 3. And we'll make this one some metal of some kind. And we'll do metal. And we'll do copper. There we go. So it looks like this. Okay, so there's our 3 characters. And what I'm going to do is make a database of these characters and their names and everything else we need to know about them. So I'm going to go into here and create a blueprint structure. I'm going to call this one a character selection struct. And in here, we're going to keep it quite simple. All we're going to have in here is character name, which will be a text field, a character class, which is going to be a class reference of a third person character, which is the parent class for our characters. And that'll do for now, but later on we'll add like thumbnails and other things we may want to add to it as well. Hit save and close that. Then I'm going to right click on this and I'm going to go to right click on it, sorry, go to add miscellaneous and then choose data table. And I'm going to choose our character selection struct. And we'll call this one character data. And in here we're going to insert our 3 characters. So we go add a new row, we'll call char 1. And the character name, we'll give this one, call this one Ryan. Actually no, I'll call it something a bit different than that. Let's go, well the first one was Oak, so we'll call him Oak. And the class for this will do character 1. Gonna add another row. This will be char 2, and this one we'll call stone and character 2, and then finally char 3, and this is going to have the character name of copper, and choose character 3. Hit save and we can close that now. Okay, so now we've got our data required for our different characters. We're now going to go back and make the UI able to change what character we've got. So we're going to go to lobby host screen. Where is it? There it is. And on the lobby host screen, we've got the character select box here with 2 boxes here for going up and down and choosing which one you want to choose from. So I'm going to click on each one and we're going to go and create a on-clicked event for it. And when it's on clicked, we are going to make it increase the number index of which character we've got selected. So I'm going to go into variables here, and we're going to call this one character names, and this will be a name array. And this is going to be the array of names that our data table has. So char 1, char 2, char 3. So I'm going to go down here, compile that, and add our names in the bottom here. So we've got char 1, another one, and we've got char 2 and char 3. Okay, so you put in all the names of the characters you have there. We then want to know which index we've got. So it's similar to how we're doing the maps basically. The index is going to be current selected character, and that's going to be an integer and not an array, just a single variable, like so. Okay, so when we unclicked the increase button, what we're going to do is we're going to take the current selected character and we're going to add 1 to it. We want to check then if this is still a valid index within the char names. So get char names, search for valid index, and put that in there. Okay, next we need to know if we are using this one or restarting the cycle round. So from there, the boolean will do select int, and if it's true it'll choose A, if it's false it'll choose B. So if it's true and it's valid, we want to use that number, so we put that there. If it's false and it's B, we want to restart back at B at 0. We then want to set the current selected character to that index. I then want to change the name of the character that's displayed on screen. So our name here is this text block, and it's called car name text. So we'll find car name text, get, and we'll do set text. So the text for this exists on our data table. So we have to get our data table row. And the row we want to get from the data table of the character data is going to match the name that we've got selected based on this index. So car names, get, and then from there, get a copy and plug in our selected index. Now guess the row name that we want for this. Oh, pardon me, that should be name, not text. Let's just change that to name. Just quickly fix these. My apologies. Okay, and that'll be into row name like that. So now it breaks out this out row, which I can then split and send over the row name to our text field there. Hit compile and save. So that's going to just change the name. We also need it to update the character that's inside the lobby. So that's going to happen on the player controller of the lobby. So let's go over to our lobby controller, and on here we're going to make a new custom event, and this custom event is going to be called change character, and this event is going to be run on the server only. So click on replicates and choose run on server. Now the reason why we do it run on server is because we're going to be deleting and spawning a new actor, and you want the server to do that. That way everyone else will replicate that spawning. So on the change character, we didn't know what character we're changing it to. So on inputs here, we're going to drag out a new input, and we're going to put in car row name, and that's going to be a name type. And from there, we want to get data table row. Actually, we don't need to. We can just go straight to the class, I think. So let's change that to the class. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, third person character class, and I'll just we'll call it new character. There we go. And that's going to come through, and we're going to make it basically destroy the old one and put in a new one. So on this controller, we want to get controlled pawn. Let's get the currently controlled pawn by this controller, and we're going to get its transform. Like so, and then I'm going to store that as a variable. So this one will be spawn transform. I'm going to plug that in to there, and then we're going to drag this controlled pawn variable out, and we're going to destroy actor. Okay, so now we're destroying the current placed one. We're then going to spawn a new one in. So we go spawn actor from class, and we're going to plug in our new character. And let's just drag that down here, keep it nice and tidy, like so. And this requires a spawn transform, which we've just saved. So just drag that out, and that makes it place it in the correct location. We then want to process it with this controller. So we're going to drag out our return value and do process. And we want to make sure that it's gone into pawn and target is set to self. Then what I want to do is then go back to my host screen here. And we want to get the controller and plug that in to here, that new function. So we get player controller. And we're going to cast this to our lobby controller. And then we can call our character, change character function. And the new character is going to come from our outrow class here. So we just drag that across like so. Okay, that should be everything. So let's go and test this out. Now, obviously, this is only doing the increase button, but there you can see it changing characters. Okay, now let's do the decrease button. So if I go back to my lobby host screen and click on the decrease button, we're going to go down and add a on-clicked event. And this is going to be basically the same as what you see here, except this start part is going to change it going down rather than up. So we're going to get the current selected character, and then we're going to -1 from it. Then we'll check if it's a valid index. And from there we'll do select int. Remember, if it's true, it'll choose A, so you want to use this one. If it's false though, rather than go back to 0, what you want to do is go to the last index. So from this array, just type in last index, and you'll get the last one in the list. And pick that one. I then want to set that to here. Okay, so that's now doing that. Now, most of these are going to be doing the same thing. Get data table and do all the same thing here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this, drag this down here, just disconnect this green pin for now, and we're going to connect it both up to this get data table row stuff. The index, we can just plug in the variable from our current selected variable there. Okay, so now it'll do it both ways, and we can test that out. Go to host match and go this way, you can see it will now go down the list and up the list. Oak, stone, copper, oak, copper, stone. Okay. Now the issue we've got at the moment is that if I push start, what's going to happen is it will spawn in with the default character and not pick the one that we've chosen. So now we're going to solve this. So with that now done, we are now working on getting the character to transfer over to the level when we start the match. Now how we're going to do this is we're going to store the class that's been chosen on the online game instance of each client. So let's go through that process here. So I'm on the lobby controller here after we click on change character, and this is processing the new character. Now this is a server-based function. So what that means is all this is happening on the server, which is fine because possession and spawning, all that is replicated anyway. What I'm going to do though is get the game instance, and this will get the game instance of the server. We'll have to make a different function to do the client side of things, but for the server side, we're going to get the game instance and you're going to cast to your specific online game instance. And on there, we need to set up a variable to receive that class. So let's go to our online game instance and make a new variable, and we'll call this one chosen class, and we'll set that to third person character, class reference, and a singular variable. Hit compile and save that, then go back to the lobby controller. So as online game instance, we can then drag this out, and here we can do the set chosen class. There we go, and plug that in like so. And I'm going to drag from this pin and connect it up to our chosen class. So the server now knows who their one is because it's storing their one on the game instance. However, we want to change it so the lobby client can also store their own one. So we can't use this, so we have to make a new function. And we're going to go on lobby controller here, and we'll make a new custom event called set character class. And the set character class, it can basically do exactly the same thing here. So we're just going to copy this as we see here, and I'm going to put that on here instead. And this function itself, this event, is going to be replicated on owning client. So when it's called, the owning client will be the one that runs it. And that chosen class will come from this set character class. So we're going to drag that pin over to there and hit compile. So now we've got this setting it on the client side, and you've got this setting on the server side. We're then going to go back to our host screen where we're calling the change character, and we also want to call our set character as well. So the client will also have their class set correctly. So let's drag that over to here. Hit compile and save that. Okay, so that's setting it and saving it onto the game instance, which is a good place to put it because it is persistent. It will remain there across all levels. Now, if you wanted to, you could make a save game object and save the class to a file, so that way when they load up the game next time, it remembers which class they last chose. So we're going to move on now and make it so we can spawn in the correct character. Now, when we're spawning in, we've got a whole different, entirely new controller. It's not the lobby controller, we're using a custom game controller instead. So on my custom player controller, I need to make a function to retrieve that chosen class. So we're going to make a new function here, or new event rather, and we're going to call this one get character class. And this is simply just going to go get online, get game instance, cast to the online game instance, and then from there we can get the character, class, sorry, get chosen class. There you go. And I'm going to store this as a variable on here. So let's drag this out and promote this to variable and leave it as chosen class. Hit compile and we're done. So the next thing I need to do is go back to our third person game mode. So our third person game mode is the game mode for the main game. So on here, we need to be able to interject and stop it from spawning the default pawn and change which pawn it spawns in with. So for that, we need to override two functions. The first function, we're going to go override, and we're going to do the handle starting new player. This is an event that fires when the player joins the match and the game mode is trying to figure out who they should spawn as. So it comes in with a controller, and from there, we can do find player start. Now find us a player start to put them at. If you leave incoming name blank, it means that they won't go to anyone in particular. They'll just pick a random one that's available. And on this return value here, we're going to plug this into a new function, and that is going to be restart player at player start. And plug that in with new player going in to the controller reference. And that's all we have to do here. So this is going to call and tell the player to basically start at the player start point and spawn with a pawn. Now we can interject this and put in the pawn we want to use. So now to override the next one, we're going to go to function, override, and do spawn default pawn for player start. Okay, and on here we get the controller and we get a starting position. So the controller, we're going to cast to our custom controller, and we're going to call that get class character class. That will get us and fetch us that variable, and then we're going to fetch that variable from the player controller. So we get chosen class, and now we do spawn actor. Spawn actor from class, and plug this in, the class being our chosen class. Let's get rid of that. The return node will plug in to the end here, and the return value will plug into that return value. I then want to get the spawn transform from my start spot, so I'll get that from there, get actor transform, and plug that in to my spawn transform. And hit compile and save that. So now all I have to do is I'm going to change my get character class here to be only for the owner client. That way the server, because the server has access to these controllers as well, we don't want the server to also do the same thing. Otherwise it will just get the server's game instance and use their save data. So this will just make sure to get the client one, and it runs it on the client and spits it back out. Okay, hit save there. And the last thing I want to do is set a default value for my chosen class on my online game instance. So let's go to there, chosen class, set that to third person character, the blank one. And also going to do the same for my custom player controller as well. So it has at least something here to spawn in as. Okay, so let's test this out. Hit play. And we're testing it on LAN again. So I'm going to hit on host match and then click on join match and just wait for it to come up. It should show up any second now. There it is. And hit join. Now I've joined the match. The character select on the host screen I can change over, and you see it change in both. So let's change it to oak and hit start match. So we go in the green hills with an oak skin for the server character, and there you go. You can see that working. Now at the moment I can't control my characters. Now the reason why is because we're still in input mode is to UI. So we need to change that briefly back. So let's go over to the third person template, and on the custom player controller on begin play here we're going to do set input mode to game only, then plug in self for the player controller, and that's it. And that brings us to the end of this video. I've gone over a bit longer than I wanted to, so I haven't had time to go through the client side of the screen. So that's what we'll do next time. We'll finish off and get the client side set up so they can ready up and set their own characters and say the player list and so forth. If you want to watch the next episode right now, head over to patreon.com/Ryan Laley, where you can watch all my videos from just $1 a month, all before anyone else. Massive thank you to all my patrons and YouTube members for their continued support. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye everyone.